Take a look behind the curtain with a real whistleblower and American patriot. Prepare to embrace the uncomfortable truth because this program has no time for comforting lies. Here is civil liberties enthusiast, Second Amendment defender, and recovering FBI agent Kyle Seraphin.
Well, hello, my friends. Welcome to the Kyle Seraphin Show. Today is Friday. It is May the 2nd, and it is a friendly Friday, and we will be having my dear friend, Steve Friend, on. Recently proclaimed to be a leftist lib Democrat for his statements with Jesse Kelly, telling people that he thought maybe we should disarm the FBI. Maybe we take the threat of the FBI, our former bosses, and say, look, if you want to get a search warrant and you want to serve it on the American people, perhaps you should go through somebody in your state who has a law enforcement authority. Maybe we do that. That, by the way, was the original incarnation of the FBI, known as the Bureau of Investigation. Before they were armed, they were still out there doing investigations. They just didn't, shoot anybody in the head over it. So that makes you a lib. That's what we're going to do here today. We're going to do lib stuff. We're going to poke fun at the place we used to work. And I'm going to tell you something that I never thought I would say. I miss Chris Wray. And so in honor of missing Chris Wray, I pulled some Chris Wray clips. And some of you have been seeing meet the old boss, same as the new boss. Meet the new boss, same as the old boss. We're there right now. I got some proof for you. What do they call that over on the Bongino show? Receipts? Okay. I had someone tell me that I can't talk about the FBI anymore because I'm not part of the arena anymore. I'm not in it. We'll see about that. Also, Mike Waltz apparently has left the chat, so that is sad. I actually found out the way many of you did, which is that I got a text message from Mike Waltz with Mike Waltz. We'll show that in just a little bit here and kind of let you in on the secret that he is now going to the UN, which hopefully is going away as well. A couple of good things to go on. And then lastly, fertility, birth rates, having children. Leftists don't like it. Go figure. It does seem like an important thing out there. It was covered by my friends at Catholic Vote that the fertility rate of 2.1 is actually not enough. It's an extinction level situation. So we need to be making more babies. We're doing our part in the Seraphin household. Where are you on that front? We'll talk about that in a minute as well. Let's get started with something that I think we can all appreciate. Big tech is constantly looking to try to screw with you. The folks in the government would love to have access to your information. Some of them do. So just a little reminder, you have to take that into your own hands. There's no other way to do it except protect yourself. You can start with my friends over at Silent. It's slnt.com/Kyle. They're a Faraday product manufacturer. They block all incoming and outgoing signals. That's going to be all the RF stuff, whether it's Bluetooth, whether it's Wi-Fi, whether it's your signal that goes in and out for your data connection. These things essentially make your devices invisible and safe from the outside world. They are things that I used when I was working for the FBI, but it's hard to find a commercially available one that actually lives up to the hype. Most of them fail. The Silent ones passed all my tests that I used to use when I was in the Bureau. Recommend their products fully. I have one sitting on the desk right now. This is the sleeve. In fact, I've got a phone in my back pocket that's going to go in there. Sometimes we do it on camera, and that's what we do. All right, so whether it be their backpacks, their phone sleeves, even pants that have signal blocking technology built in to stop Wi-Fi and wireless signals, giving you peace of mind so your data doesn't go into the wrong hands. All you got to do is put your device inside and close it. That's how long it takes. Go silent today with slnt.com/KYLE. Save yourself 15%. You'll get free shipping on all qualifying orders. You can stay ahead of what's coming. You can secure your privacy. It also gives you kind of like a moment of peace, like when you want to do a podcast or get on a phone call with somebody or get on your computer Skype call and you want your phone to not ring, because mine always does that. slnt.com/KYLE. Save some money. Check them out. Their backpacks are fantastic looking. You're seeing one on the screen right now, the E3 Everyday. All right, we're going to get into all kinds of wild stuff, including things that may have something to do with phones. Here comes the fun. Let's get started. I got the Steve Friend on the line. Hey, buddy, how you doing?
I'm just rocking here as the face of liberalism and Democrats within the country for my conversation with the Crown Prince of MAGA, Matt Gaetz, on OAN, which is apparently too conservative for cable.
It was OAN, that's right. It wasn't Jesse Kelly, although I feel you were on. Were you on Jesse Kelly recently too?
I did both this week, and that was both, I think, opportunity to share information with the viewers of those programs who are just kind of like still bebopping along, still think they won the Super Bowl because November happened.
How is Gates' program? My father recently just told me that it is very, very well done, that he's a kind of a natural broadcaster. Is that your experience?
Yes. Yeah. He definitely takes the skill set that he brought as a almost pugilistic style interrogator, as a prosecutor, and then also as a congressman. He asked questions and did so. I mean, I wouldn't say it was aggressive. Like I didn't feel like under threat, but he definitely like pushed you a little bit. And I respect that. It wasn't like the Hannity where he monologued for 45 seconds and then says, "Don't you agree with me?"
But don't you agree with him?
Mostly. Yeah, mostly.
Okay. What was the apparently controversial thing that you said? Will you lay out the plan? Because people always go like, well, why don't you just be part of the solution? Where's your plan? It's like, hey, a-holes, the plan has been floated, including to people who are the current director of the FBI. You've had phone calls with Cash.
I have. Yeah,
I've had phone calls with Cash. We've had them together. We've had them individually. Yes.
Yes, yeah, we were part of a nice little Signal chat group that unfortunately no members of the media got into.
No members. We didn't add like Adam Goldman or anything. What were the nature of the calls that you got? So let's just do credibility here. What were the nature of the calls that you got from Kash Patel? What was the either ask or information being shared?
Oh, he asked us to vet certain people, names that he actually had, but more often than not, it was suggestions for names of good people to elevate, and then just for also ideas, policy standpoints. Like if you could give me a couple of talking points, like if I had to fill one page on a PowerPoint slide deck, like what sort of good hard-hitting things can you give me so I can go talk to the boss about it?
Yeah, that's the same. I got the same animal of like, you got 5 minutes with Donald Trump. What are you telling him about the FBI? It's like, okay, sure. Yeah, I'll give you that. That's easy. Like, this is what we do for a living at this point. I want you to lay out your plan, your idea, this controversial, apparently lib plan to take guns from the FBI. What does that look like? I'm going to give the floor to you.
The plan that is published in The Federalist, not a left-leaning source, which has been published for like a year and a half. The plan is to disarm the FBI, because the FBI, as much as they like to take credit for their founding in 1908, that's not when they were the FBI. That's when they were the Bureau of Investigations. They did not have firearms at that standpoint. So I would actually eliminate, and I would do this across all federal law enforcement agencies, limited to just the U.S. Marshals having some firearms. But I would get rid of the 1811 criminal investigator. That's the special agent. And therefore make the FBI a Bureau of Investigations, unarmed. But in order to bring about an arrest, if they wanted to do a prosecution, say this person violated the law, they would have to go to the local magistrate. They would have to go to the sheriff or the police chief. And they already do that now because they take those people in order to get extra manpower. And then they give them deputization as a federal agent. So you'll have a sheriff's office or a sheriff's deputy detective who has state arrest authority because if he's a sheriff's deputy. But he also get, because of the U.S. Marshal, they give him that federal arrest authority, either Title 18, Title 21, whatever it is. And in effect, if the FBI brought forward an investigation of a radical traditional Catholic who they said was a domestic terrorist, the sheriff could say, I'm not going to do that. But in order to stop wasting your time, why don't you help my people do what we're doing, which is round up Tren de Aragua members? So I think that it would be a way to small r Republicanized federal law enforcement and actually do what they say they do, and that is liaise with their local partners as opposed to just take credit for what they already did.
How many SWAT arrests do you think, or SWAT search warrants did you serve at various residences around the U.S.?
So SWAT for 5 years, and we were fairly active. So let's say we did 2 SWAT operations a month. So that's like 120 operations.
All right. And did you often or always engage local law enforcement to do a vehicle at the end of the street to turn on the lights and basically stop traffic and do sort of perimeter and crowd control?
Yes. You always did that because you didn't want them to have a blue on blue situation where somebody calls and says, hey, there's banging going on. There potentially could be gunfire. And then the police come in and you have a really bad situation.
There's a bunch of dudes wearing pajamas that are driving in a tank and they don't seem like they have any markings that say, sheriff's department or police department on them because that's the FBI.
It's infill.
Right. Yeah. Infill equals walking. How far is the average infill in your experience?
Roughly 18 to 24 feet.
That's a long walk.
The distance from the front yard to up the porch is the infill, which is actually the only time when you could use night vision goggles.
So just let people understand what the FBI is and what it is not. How many people there are pretending, either reliving military glory days or pretending that they're in the military when they're not, would you say, in the SWAT world?
Well, in the SWAT world, the guys that brought a military background, it's almost like a fantasy camp, or it's a relief for them, because so many of them are doing counterterrorism, counterintelligence, and they're not really doing anything on any given day. And it's an opportunity for them to go play Army for a couple of days, go practice their skill set, practice a close quarter battle, and then go out and actually put handcuffs on bad guys, the thing that they signed up to do originally. So my experience with most of the SWAT guys they're good guys. They're just their skill set is not put into what it should be. I was a unique exception to that, where I was actually busy arresting people on my own. In fact, the SWAT team guys were always like, "Hey, let us know when you can get us up there so we can go do like an Indian country arrest, because that would be really fun."
Because most people in the FBI are not putting handcuffs on people on any given day.
Most people in the FBI, is my experience, never arrest someone in their entire career. And look,
I've watched, so let me give you the worst example of this. I watched people in the counterintelligence program that I was in when I first got assigned to Washington Field. Now, I had an exceptional first day, and I think I've told you this before, but I got picked up, I think it was on 12/12 of 2016, by my training agent at about 3 a.m. or 3:30 a.m. My wife and I we didn't have any kids at the time, and it was a brand new job. So she woke up and made me breakfast, which never happened again, basically, because like once you start waking up at 3 a.m., mama's like, nah, not interested. She was pregnant. She made me breakfast. The training agent picked me up. We drove to the middle of this like crappy part of Washington, D.C. It's pissing rain. Like a movie, we're standing out there briefing underneath the overhang in a library. We mounted up. We went out there, and we were part of like a 19 or 20 house PCP junkie ring, trafficking organization that was doing drugs. It was a bunch of black gang members selling and moving and manufacturing PCP in Southeast DC. So I hit the house with a ram within the first couple hours of getting like my real field office time. In fact, my picture at Washington Field Office, what is the ID picture on your, it's not a CAC card, whatever they call it, SAX badge.
The SAX badge.
What is that? What did that always look like?
It looks a lot like your creds picture. I mean,
it's a suit.
Looks like you posed at the DMV.
Okay, it's a suit, it's a tie, it's what you show up on your first day in the office when they like show like, here's Steve Friend, he just came out of Quantico, and like here's where his cubicle is gonna be. That's your picture, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Mine was me wearing a tactical fleece and having roughed up hair from wearing a baseball cap from serving a search warrant for a couple of hours, and then I rolled in and they're like, we're taking the picture right now.
That's pretty awesome. I mean, you have to have the badge, so I guess it stands to reason that it would happen. But your experience is unique.
Here's the thing: I brought a suit in the car of my my training agent, who actually was a SWAT guy. So he's like helmeted up, he's got the Peltors on, the whole deal. He's like cocking into his comms on his push to talk like a cool guy. He's got the boom mic, the whole thing. And I'm like, this is a little bit much for a bunch of regular, like a chick who's standing out here on perimeter, who's like looking around trying to figure out what to do in the back alley. And we hope to God that nobody goes running out the back because they're going to tackle her because she's 5'7" and $115. Pretty, but like tackleable.
And look, in full disclosure, they let you know if we get a runner, we'll get him another day. Don't go chasing anybody. Like,
there's no
not
upside
a cop.
to that. Yeah, exactly that. Anyway, so all that's really funny to me. So again, end of the day, most FBI agents are not using a gun. Like probably 99%. We actually had a friend, we have a mutual friend now we keep in touch with, who's back to being a cop, who when he was working as an FBI agent, refused to carry his gun, just put it in the desk because he was embarrassed, because he used to be a guy who needed a gun in his job and then didn't need it anymore. And he was like, yeah, this is not a gun job.
Let's use somebody who is actually in the Pareto's law, the 80-20 rule. Somebody who's part of the 20% doing 80% of the work. A producer emeritus, Phil Kennedy. Okay, he was working white collar crimes, public corruption crimes. He's told me in his 14, 15-year career with the FBI, he only arrested like 9 subjects because they were complex cases. And that's what you expect the FBI to do. They're not out there making probable cause arrests like the guys on Indian country typically do. Like we were taught that in the academy. Like, you will never make a probable cause arrest. Like, that's never going to happen.
We did an interview with Mark Kreider. People can go back in the channel back when I was sitting in a trailer and doing this. And he was just like, if you ever want to give an assistant United States attorney an aneurysm, call them up and tell them that you've made a probable cause based arrest without a warrant, like a warrantless arrest. They will crap themselves because they don't know what to do, because this is not a tactic that they practice. The FBI is not made of cops. It's made of investigators, in theory.
They taught us in the academy, the legal instructor we had. I had a really good legal instructor, former cop, and he actually is now legal advisor to HRT. And he said, look, we have to teach you about making a probable cause arrest. That's never going to happen. We have to teach you about how to drive emergency vehicles, but you're never going to get into a vehicle chase. So on the day that I got into a vehicle chase and made a probable cause arrest, I sent an email to my legal instructor, and he's like, where are you? And I was like, Indian country. He's like, that doesn't count. That's not
that
the
doesn't
FBI.
count, exactly, because you're not even part of the FBI mission according to people in the FBI. Like, you're so
It's
low,
a different
like,
country.
No, it is. Literally, they consider it to be a different country. It's almost an O'Conus post, and almost all of them are considered hardships, and they only put certain people in to do it. So end of the day, all I'm trying to get people to understand is that the FBI that you think exists is not the one that's out there. Steve Friend saying that we should disarm these people, and maybe like I don't know, like have some elected officials like your city council who probably have some say, or your mayor who has some say on what your police chief does, or better yet, the people who get to vote and elect a sheriff in most places. Wouldn't it be nice to actually have a little bit of say rather than having, I don't know, some dude getting shot in the head because he worked at an airport and he bought 6 Glocks one day and the ATF decided to go down the door, or some guy made some stupid threat online, but he barely walks with a cane, so an FBI agent shoots him in the head because he picked up a revolver in the middle of the night when they came in through the door?
It just reorients the priority set, and you want the sheriff to bring crime down as opposed to having a national initiative and juking the quota system so that we can make the numbers look bigger so we can get more funding and artificially create that image of, like, look how much good work we're doing. But if the sheriff comes in and says, wow, look how high our crime numbers are, he's going to lose his job.
That's right. The FBI gets more money for it. The FBI gets money for it from Congress. You're like, oh my Lord, terrorism's on the rise. We got more terrorism cases. Yes, we may have incited some of these people, and we recruited people to go out there and claim that they were terrorists when they weren't. But yeah, we need more money. And then Congress obliges. We made a quick allusion to Matt Gaetz. I got a little bit of him coming forward in the a little bit later in the show. Let's start with a news story here, since we're talking about cops doing cop stuff. This became a federal case, but it is not a federal case when it started. This was a regular traffic stop story. We keep getting more and more of this stuff. We continue to hear more about Abrego Garcia, this dude who is now the most famous member of MS-13 and the most famously deported illegal alien probably in the history of America. A judge has also decided to rule in on that Alien Enemies Act. This is a judge in Texas. They make a big point of it on ABC News, pointing out that it is a Trump-appointed federal judge who has permanently blocked the administration from detaining, transferring, or removing Venezuelans targeted for the deportation under the Alien Enemies Act in the Southern District of Texas. The Southern District of Texas is an interesting animal because it has a lot of Clinton-era judges in there. There's a lot of people in there, but this one apparently is a Trump-era judge. And I don't know if it matters or not, but his name is Fernandez Rodriguez. I'm sure that the Latino blood has nothing to do with him having sympathies towards dudes who came to this country. The ruling marks the first time that a federal judge has declared Trump's use of the Alien Enemies Act is unlawful in the way that they're doing it. By the way, the Supreme Court did rule on this, right? You remember seeing that. What they said is that they didn't rule on the constitutionality or the legality of actually using the law. So this is now a novel thing. This is going to make it back up to SCOTUS again. Trump's going to set the record for most lawsuits, probably on the single thing, because they continue to use it. And thank God they do, honestly. I'm just like, yeah, push this guy out.
We're in a situation right now where they have continually you try to use the term like this is going to be a constitutional crisis. They're basically speaking this into existence. Like a judge inserting him or herself in a situation, effectively going beyond the judiciary and taking on creating laws, legislative power, and trying to act as the executive in executing those laws. Like that in itself is a constitutional crisis, and you're going to force Donald Trump and his administration's hand, and they're just going to come to the Andrew Jackson conclusion and say, like, you and what army? And I think that they're going to be on pretty firm ground by doing that. They're going to have a lot of support from people because people went to the polls and issued the mandate. And the two biggest things to them were, one was the inflation and two was the immigration. And immigration is massive and it polls really well for those people. You're going to get the Norm and Norma Normie in the suburbs to the polls in 2026 for the midterms if you're able to actually affect some of these deportations, which as much as they're trying to pump them up, guys, like we're on track for less than 1 million deportations in 4 years.
Which is not enough, I don't think. This is maybe my favorite clip. I know you already know it because you were singing along to it when we were prepping this morning as I put this on. This is the clip of the wife getting pushed, interestingly enough, on ABC News. This is the wife of Abrego Garcia being asked the one question, hey, did he beat you? And she said he's alive. So here, we'll just play this real quick. And then we're going to do the body cam footage from his quote-unquote human trafficking stop.
I have to ask it. You did take out a temporary order of protection against your husband in 2021. Were you in fear of your husband?
husband is alive. That's all I can say.
Okay, and I'm not going to push on that, apparently. But
there's nothing weirder than complete dead air, and I love that she's like, I'm not answering that question. That's the end of my case. I love how
she got completely dominated by a very simple question. And I know you're not a sports balls guys, but that's Michael Strahan, former defensive end for the New York Giants. She got dominated by a jock.
Didn't he like replace Regis Philbin? And isn't that his job? Like,
I don't know what any of the palace intrigue is over those morning shows. And they're certainly not doing hard-hitting information, but apparently,
that's not a hard-hitting interview.
Journalism from Michael Strahan.
Yeah, absolutely. So here's another little bit. This is coming from what's his name? Jesse Waters doing primetime. They shared the body cam footage. This is what actual cops do. They go do an investigative traffic stop. Do you want to tell people what your authority was to stop a vehicle when you were working as an FBI agent?
As an FBI agent?
Yeah.
None. You don't do vehicle stops.
Yeah, not a thing.
You get locals to do some sort of probable cause stop, and you stand back at a far distance because there could be something dangerous happen.
The funniest moments I had is when my boss had us practicing vehicle assaults for pulling people out, which we actually ended up doing a couple of those things that were necessary, but we had warrants. They were long-term cases. These were actually MS-13 guys in the same vein. And unlike our buddy Phil, who, working white collar, you're going to get cuffs on somebody like once every year or two if you're lucky. We had 3 subjects arrested by my team in a period of about, 6 hours. And then Washington field office's 50-man SWAT team also got 3 subjects. So my 6-man team punched well above its weight back in the day. This is what a vehicle stop looks like. This is the guy being caught, and you can listen to him. A lot of people probably have never heard his voice. They've seen pictures of him hanging out with a senator, drinking margaritas and Mai Tais down in El Salvador, which looks nice. But this is him being caught driving. The lefties, by the way, in the comments, the same ones that are mad about Steve Friend being a leftist trying to disarm the FBI, these people were like, so he was on a traffic stop. He was driving with some of his friends from Maryland to St. Louis. It's like, yeah, that's what people do. 8 strangers in the freaking car. Here we go.
Van Hollen changed his tune because every day another shoe drops on the Maryland dad. He was a suspect in a human trafficking operation dating back 3 years. And Fox Digital just got their hands on the body cam. But you're seeing it here first. Tennessee Highway Patrol stopped Kilmar for speeding and noticed he had 8 other people in the car. All no luggage. Take a look.
Hello, sir.
How are you?
Good, and you?
All right.
Everything good?
You got a bunch of people here, don't you?
It's 1 for sick. Yes. Go back to work.
Gotcha. Where are you working at?
Where?
Where?
St. Louis, Missouri.
Missouri?
Yes, sir.
Gotcha. Okay.
But I'm from to Maryland.
Where do y'all live at?
Where I living? I live in Maryland.
Maryland?
Yeah, also here.
Whose vehicle is it?
What, excuse me?
Whose car is it?
It's to my boss.
Your boss?
My boss, yeah.
Where's he live? Where's your boss live?
My boss right now is staying in Maryland, but he lives in Texas.
Okay.
In Houston, Texas.
After talking to Kilmar, the officers had no doubt he was trafficking.
You know what you got here, right? He's hauling these people for money. You got an ass hauler is what he's doing, but sometimes they commingle dope and
All right, we'll cut away from that. That's the supervisor on scene giving his assessment of the thing. Steve, you've done a number of vehicle stops as a cop. Someone tells you that they're from Maryland, they're driving to St. Louis. Where do you live? I'm in my boss's car, and he lives in Maryland, but he stays in Texas. We're from. What's that all tell you about what this guy's telling you?
It's just filling the void that the Abrego Garcia's wife was unable to fill with lots of information that is not relevant, and that's deception. That's what's going on. And look, this is completely independent. That cop did what I'm a big fan of, and he went to the passenger side when he made his stop. One, you're not going to get knocked over by a driver, especially in the dark. But secondly, like you catch that person by surprise if they got bad intention for you. So I like that cop style.
I mean, this is like, somebody who does this for a living. This was the Tennessee Highway Patrol. Yeah. So this is like, they do stops solo, one man all the time. Somebody used to always joke with me. They were a former state patrolman. One of my buddies was a sheriff's deputy. And he was like, what the FBI does with like a 20-man team, I used to do with me and a partner if I was lucky. Like single man entries in a trailer was regular if there was exigent circumstances, knocking on a door solo, pulling people over by yourself on a regular basis. We would literally get one highway patrolman or a Virginia State police officer to do a pullover. And like you said, there'd be like 20 agents like hanging out behind there, sitting 150 yards away, like waiting to help out, like whenever it came up.
Right. I've made felony traffic stops by myself as a cop, and just because you had to do it, right? Like you didn't have an opportunity. Like, well, this car is supposed to be, it's a bolo comes out, and like it happened to drive by me, and like I got to do this right now. It's a shift change time. Help's not coming. There's a reason that I get paid and I got training. So hopefully this goes well for me. There's inherent risk, and on the Indian country side of things, where it's really unique. You're in your own country. You're not really in the same bureau. Like we got pushback from people who were afraid to do the job. We got people who did not work where we worked, doing different violations, who found out what we were doing and complained about it because they said that it was a violative of policy. Being like, I arrested somebody and had transported them because it was a 3.5-hour drive by myself, and I had to have them shackled and belly banded, and I did all of that. And it's like, well, you really need to have a second person. Well, I'm sorry, I don't have a second person available. I'd be more than happy to have you come out and help me if that's what you want to do, but that would require you to put a gun on your hip and leave from your cubicle. So why are you complaining?
Those people probably didn't need the gun. They would be just fine with the idea. We had a long thought experiment, me and Phil Kennedy, at one point in time, where we decided that if you were to break the FBI into two different factions, all would get the name, all the special agents would get a choice. Check yes or no. Do you want to join the Pink Pussy Patrol, where you will get pink handcuffs, a pink painted Glock, a pink set of credentials and badge, and you will go out and arrest bad guys on a daily basis? The other people will get to wear suits and ties. They'll get to eat salads. You will get no gun, but you will get the badge, and you will be called special agents of the FBI. 90% of the FBI is going to want to be the special agent for the title. They're more than happy to take that. It wouldn't even offend most FBI agents to not have to carry a gun, to the point where we've seen female agents show up at new offices, go and talk to one of the administrative staff and say, so I'm new here. Where do I put my gun when I'm at work? And they're like, I don't know, dude. You're an FBI agent. Like, you're supposed to figure out what to do with the gun. We'll get back on more of that. I'm obviously riled up right now, so we're going to go ahead and talk about my friends over at Blackout Coffee. Let's cut over to that real quick. And folks, we've been telling you about Blackout Coffee for a couple months now. We got some guests in the house right now. The patriarch and the matriarch of the Seraphin clan are here, and we are drinking, I think I went through like 2 liters times 2 of Blackout Coffee. It's a good company. They're making coffee that kicks you right in the beans and gets you started in the day. They built their company based on hard work and grit and American values. It's not just another coffee brand. Founders are now working out of a large 64,000 square foot warehouse. They're roasting all the beans in-house. They're packing them every order themselves, employing 30 hardworking Americans, not ass haulers like guys who may or may not be in MS-13 that got exported from the United States. It's just a damn good coffee made by people who care. Blackout Coffee is not just making a great cup of coffee, they're supporting the American dream. You guys can support it as well with your own American dream. Do things the right way, hard work, real values, coffee that gets you moving in the morning. You can always tell I'm always rocking and rolling. It's blackoutcoffee.com/KYLE. Again, blackoutcoffee.com/Kyle. Use promo code KYLE to save yourself 20% on your first order. Figure out what you like and how fast you drink it. Put yourself on a subscription and keep that discount rolling. Again, it's blackoutcoffee.com/Kyle. Stop drinking weak coffee. Get yourself started off the right way. I am drinking the Pitch Black. I am an espresso roast, as dark as it gets kind of guy. So just out there. Steve, I feel like you're not a coffee guy. Is that true? You don't drink coffee?
No, I don't drink coffee.
What's up with that?
I've never been a hot beverage guy. It just doesn't do well
You know
for
what?
me.
You know what I'm not? I had a conversation one time when I was in college, and somebody's like, do you want a tuna fish panini? And I was like, something about the idea of a hot fish sandwich just turns me off in a big way. I could understand why. When you say it like that, I'm more inclined to agree with you. This is why we have different but valuable perspectives.
Yeah, it's the same thing as like naming something sour cream. Is that the worst named product ever? It's like, oh, this cream is really good. Let's call it sour. Ooh.
All the sours, I'm out of it. Some people like sour stuff, not my thing. Okay, how about this? This is just kind of funny. I think it's really amusing when CNN has to cover something that they don't want to. This was the lead story they had on the page this morning. It says, the United States economy added a stronger than expected 177,000 jobs in April. Oops. When you have to cover Donald Trump positively, that always makes me laugh. They go on and talk about how they expected one thing, that they've been soft numbers, and the economy is, sort of like constricting, and GDP and blah, 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 but people are getting jobs because, the threat of shutting down certain things, the fact that a Republican is in office who tends to be less regulation and more pro-business, It actually has an effect. And then for whatever reason, we're showing a bunch of people standing there on their phones at like a job booth. That's the picture that they had, which will be funny because we're going to talk about phones and signal chats and so on.
Job fair, man. I love how we have to revise the numbers up. When was the last time that ever happened when it came to the jobs?
Nope. It do not happen like that. That is not the way that it normally goes down. So while we're talking about people and populations and numbers, this is kind of interesting. I want to just tease it out here. This came from the folks over at Catholic Vote. I thought it was a good story. It's got a couple of cute kids on the screen. It says, new study says that the replacement birth rate of 2.1 children per woman is likely too low for our population to survive. In other words, the current production rate of Americans by Americans is an extinction level situation. Elon Musk not wrong about you got to go out and have babies. You're under the curve, by the way. Apparently the real number should be closer to 2.7 children per woman. And the Friend family is deficient. What are you doing? I've got you made up for it.
Well,
in fact, me and Garrett O'Boyle are covering for you and our buddy Phil.
All right, so it's going to take a village here from the suspendable standpoint that we can way be in excess of this number. So I feel pretty comfortable with it. But I'm curious about why they've revised that number up. I mean, is it because maybe we injected an experimental gene use into arms and it's going to render a lot of women infertile?
Quite interesting. The mathematical models that were being used, the team examined how variations in fertility, mortality, and the likelihood that some adults will never reproduce can significantly increase the decline of a population, even when the society meets the so-called traditional replacement level birth rate. Considering, I love it when people use the word stochasticity in fertility. Considering stochasticity in fertility and mortality rates and sex ratios, says Diane Carmela and Karazmina, a fertility rate higher than the standard replacement level is necessary to ensure the sustainability of our population. Anyway, there's a short answer. It's go out and have more babies unless you're a clown. And in exact contrast to this, coming from the folks over at CBS, why more couples are choosing a life without children.
It looks so miserable.
They look so sad. That looks like the most effeminate grown man with a beard and a bald head that I've ever seen, and he looks like he's being led around by a blue-haired a woman who has like
the half-shaved head. You know that she's a girl boss.
She's got half of my haircut, and she's out there running that around. How? Ugh. I don't know.
Every animated character now that's female has to have that.
Steve, this goes along with what we actually talked about the other day. Apparently, there's a trend of men trying to look more masculine by shaving off their eyelashes, not their brows, their eyelashes, and they don't want to look like feminine with large lashes. Apparently, JD Vance has them. So rather than like pumping iron, lifting weights, doing push-ups, going for a run, I don't know what else you could do. Walk around, what's really masculine looking to me? When you scoop up all of your kids at once, especially when you have 4 of them. I can get 1 on my back and 3 in my arms, and it's not very cool because you're carrying about 200 pounds worth of kids, but you're just like, dude, what is more hyper masculine than carrying your entire offspring, like your lineage, in your arms? Or you could, cut off your eyelashes. That's apparently a thing.
That's way easier than actually like pumping iron and lifting up small people. Like we would need to have an easier, more comfortable route. We need the easy button to that. And again, isn't the more masculine thing to not give a crap about what you look like? Isn't that the stereotype? But the person who's like uber concerned about it, that's the metrosexual. And they came to the conclusion that shaving their eyelashes made them look tough somehow. I don't know. I mean, that was probably spoken into their ear by a woman with a half-shaved head.
Like this lady who's wearing a jacket that matches her hair in some sort of awful looking, terrible teal. I hope it's a natural. I hope it's a natural
Hillary
dye.
Clinton-esque pantsuit.
Kind of, but it has like all these like hangy dangly thingies. I don't know. All right, how about this? This is kind of fun. I got notification yesterday, like many of you guys did. Got a text message from Mike Waltz, who was formerly a congressman out of Florida. He stepped out of his seat in the House to go and join the Trump administration as the national security advisor. Here's the text message I got. It just said, "Hey, I just want you to know I got fired." My natural response was, "Who is this?" Because I didn't know where the text came from over on Signal. He said, "This is Mike Waltz. It's Donald Trump's national security advisor." Well, former advisor. As I said, I just got fired. Naturally, like many things, when people, how do you get my number? And his answer was, "Hang on, I'm just going to add a couple more people to this chat." So, so Mike Waltz is out. What's your assessment on this? You're a Florida guy. This district is either close to you or you're in it. I can't remember which one.
Both. I mean, I moved here. I was actually in Mike Waltz's district, and then they redrew a bunch of the districts, and I'm out of it now by like 400 yards. So I was a Congressional District 6. I didn't leave the district. It left me. Now I have Corey Mills, who's been accused of stolen valor. So only the best coming from
Only the
Florida
best.
Republicans.
Mike Waltz is a Green Beret, right?
Yeah. Just wait 5 minutes. I'll tell you.
Oh, does he have that problem? Most Green Berets, like the really like spooky Green Berets, won't tell you anything, and you have to drag it out of them. That's my favorite Green Beret. If you're listening and you've been in the special operations community, you know that there are certain people who can't wait to tell you about how they're a Navy SEAL. Navy SEAls, I'm looking right at you.
It's all Navy SEAls, or at least if you're a female.
So yeah, the joke is that I did this at Quantico. Actually, I made some friends on my tour of Quantico. I'm going to just take the screen for a second here. And I'm saying this with a lot of love as a guy who's got a combat dive badge sitting over my shoulder here. And yes, that is a 1942 U.S. military bayonet. Came out of World War II. It was hanging out in a New York apartment that belonged to my wife's uncle, which we call it Uncle Grumpy stuff. In any case, Steve, I'm on the tour for Quantico, and as I'm sitting there, like, somebody is making fun of this dude who talked about being a Marine. He's like, as a former Marine who's on Quantico, or like whatever it is, and everyone's like, how do you know he's a Marine? And another guy's like, he can't wait to tell you. So we're like giving back and forth, and then somebody else piped in and goes, kind of like a Navy SEAL. And I'm like, no, SEALs are too busy telling your girlfriend or your wife that they're SEALs, which has been my experience. And I have a couple of SEALs that are in the mentor category of mine and actually helped me get through some of the stuff I was doing when I was in the Air Force. I love all of you, but
the
SEALs,
interagency rivalries are very funny.
It's
As
so
somebody
necessary.
on the outside, I love to just like rile it up and just leave it.
Dude, I had a girl come in to the emergency room when I was working in the ER in Austin. And so there's no basis of any substance. There's like Camp Mabry here or something like that. And so there's not like a lot of, but there's Colleen had what used to be called Fort Hood, now called something else. Hopefully goes back to Fort Hood. The Air Force base is down in San Antonio. So we get some mixture of military, former military. And this girl comes in and she's in labor, active labor, and she's wearing a Letterman jacket, right? You know what I mean? Like, so the leather sleeves, the felt thing. She's wearing a Letterman jacket, and it says United States Air Force on it, which is weird because I didn't know that we lettered anybody unless you were at the academy.
Other than the academy, husband playing football.
I take the girl, I put her in the wheelchair, which is our standard move, and it's like a 400 or 500 yard walk through all these different parts of the hotel to get to the women's center where they go and they have the babies. So as we're kind of cruising through there, I've got this gal and I'm just chatting her up, and I've got my paramedic scrubs on and I'm doing my thing and I'm walking, and so I go, everything's gonna be fine. I said, do you have someone you need to notify? Is there a father on the way or something like that? She's like, well, he's in the military. And I go, oh, okay. And I go, why do you have an Air Force jacket on? Are you in the service? And she's like, no, that's my boyfriend. Like he's in the Air Force. And I was like, oh, I thought you said he was in the military. And as a former Air Force guy, that's my favorite joke, is like making fun of it. When people tell me that the Air Force is thinking about joining DOD, I'm always like, yeah, well, we kind of think of ourselves as like paramilitary type guys. Like,
it is
we've
the
got
chair
ranks.
force. Yeah,
let us do it. So anyway, I'm making fun of her. She got pissed. She's like doing the thing, having contractions, and she's just like, she gets mad at me. She goes, he's in the United States, the finest Air Force in the history. I'm like, calm down. We can't have a baby in the hallway, girl. Like, I was in the Air Force. I'm just giving you a hard time. Like, I would do the same thing if I saw your boyfriend. By the way, he needs to marry you.
Somebody who made a baby with a person who was in the military.
And somebody who's associated with a baby veteran. She was so mad. Anyway, it's a good thing. My favorite Green Berets are the ones that you go like, hey, so what do you do for a living? And they're like, oh, I work for the government, or I'm in the military. And you're like, oh, cool. What part of the military are you in? And they're like, yeah, I'm in the Army. And you're like, cool. What do you do in the Army? And they're like, I do. And they're like real vague and big, like the quiet professional thing is a real thing. All my buddies that I knew that were Green Berets, I found out by dragging it like teeth out of them. They don't
they didn't have the I love me some me wall on their cubicle or in their office. Everybody that has that was military within the FBI, you can guarantee was a FOB and intel person.
So, yeah, my buddy actually came into his office one time and he saw a new guy came in and he had the entire I Love Me. It was all the awards he got for doing like something to a case, or he was serving on the arrest team that helped, like a director's award or some BS like that. And he saw like this guy like lay out like this shrine to himself on government property. So my buddy looks over and sees that he has like a couple of challenge coins and he's got his name tag and some other things, like a couple of things on his desk that are like curios and personal. And he opened up his drawer. He's an Indian country agent. And he swept all of his crap off and he just threw it in the drawer. And from then on, he had a sterile desk. He was just like, I'm whatever that guy is. I'm the opposite of it. We're talking about GBs. So let me do a little quick read for the folks over at Undertac. Folks, they're the only people that have made me change my mind about underwear, which is an interesting thing to do. We're going to talk about Undertac, which you can find at undertac.com. Use the promo code Kyle. They've got a buy 3 get 1 free operation right now. The world's best boxer brief. They are designed for special forces operators, just like we're talking about right now. People who work in Africa's harshest terrains rather, people who are doing some of the hardest work out there, doing foreign internal defense. I've got buddies who are on CRIF teams and stuff like that worked in Africa. If you guys want to get something that keeps up with you, I still do a lot of physical stuff. I still enjoy these things. They are a great thing for either PT or for lounging. They've got different options. The Recon is the one that you would use if you're going to be doing some hard work or rucking, or if you want to go outside and do some fitness. Anyway, it's tactical gear that's built for tough missions, worldwide rucking, crushing your soul, destroying all the things that are out there that you need to get done, getting your mission set accomplished. They have 50% better moisture wicking technology than cotton. They keep you cool and dry and locked in. They've got a hidden E&E pocket, things that make sense for people that need to hide stuff, whether it be your weed or whether it's your Jason Bourne style little SD card that's got all your info on there. Check them out at undertac.com. You can pair them up with the American-made merino wool socks, which are a big thing. I'm a socks guy. I've always been a socks guy. Anybody who's ever lived on their feet or lived in a ruck, which I did for 4 years straight, socks are they are the winner. They make an Urban Ops hoodie. Check some of their stuff out. They're built comfy. They're keeping you comfy. They're mission ready. It doesn't matter if you're at the range, or if you're hanging out on your couch in just your undies and your hoodie, which may be something that happens in the Seraphin household. Again, promo code Kyle, Kyle, buy 3, get 1 free. The offer will not last, so check it out. That's basically 25% off, and that gets you your whole week's worth of laundry at once. Steve, are you a big get all the laundry and then try to last for at least a week, if not more?
Oh, I mean, my wife, God bless her, she's always doing laundry. She's got 2 boys that are growing and myself, so
multiple costume changes per day.
I need to check out Undertac because I think I erred in my latest underwear purchase because they don't have a fly area. Like you actually have to pull the whole thing down like you're an infant.
So listen, while we're talking about it, the fly on these, I've seen them on Tommy John's, but I don't like Tommy John's. I tried to wear those. My mother bought me underwear, which is weird, but I guess when I'm always her baby. So she bought me them. They have a horizontal fly. So rather than doing the peak between the curtains like this, which is really weird, it's like this, which makes more sense for the orientation of the anatomy. Anyway, it's a much more appropriate way to get a tack pee in, which, as someone who has peed on the side of tracks, I'm sure you've peed on the side of the road on a knee when you're out for a jog every once in a while. You guys just do what you got to do. Sort of useful. Just saying.
Innovation never ceases to amaze me that we could have gone how long with underwear and nobody thought of that. That's great.
Nobody thought about hey, why are we orientating it in a vertical way so it is a weep hole? Why don't we turn it so it's like a freaking door open up? Anyway, I don't know. It's a thing. And there's offers an opportunity for you to keep a spare almond so you can refuel yourself for a whole day.
Oh man, I may need to do a fast just to be able to fill all those almonds.
Okay, all right. So hold on, let me put this back on the screen just because I like it. There it is. There's my text message. People take a screenshot. It's fun. I want to talk about, like I said, Chris Wray. We lost who would have known that we would have actually missed Chris Wray at this point? I'm not being that funny about it. I'm just sort of sad. I want to talk about Chris Wray, this guy. Now, the guy that you said we hit the thermal exhaust port on. Here's a little refresher of some of the greatest hits of Chris Wray, talking eloquently and having feigned outrage about the radical traditionalist Catholic document. He's not up on the Catholic orders the way that you are. He didn't go to Notre Dame. Here's Chris Wray. I wonder where he went to school. What do you think?
Without objection. Director, what's the difference between a traditional Catholic and a radical traditional Catholic?
I'm not an expert on the Catholic orders.
Well, your FBI wrote a memo talking about radical traditional Catholics. I'm just wondering if you could define it for us.
Well, what I can tell you is you're referring to the Richmond product, which was a single product by a single field office, which as soon as I found out about it, I was aghast and ordered it withdrawn and removed from FBI systems.
You were aghast, then why won't you let us talk to the people who put it together?
We are working on finishing an internal review into what happened
We have to wait. We, the Congress, and the American people have to wait until you do an internal review. It's not a criminal investigation going on here. An internal review before we can talk to the people who wrote this?
When we finish our internal review, which will be very soon.
It's not ever going to be done, and it never was done as far as we know. Did anyone ever get fired over that?
No. Actually, I think Stanley Meter, the special agent in charge of FBI Richmond, is still there. And posing with the director, deputy director in pictures.
Talking about being good cops. Something they don't know anything about. That's interesting. So they were doing an internal review, not a criminal investigation. That seems relevant right now because we keep hearing people talking about how... Do you know how many criminal investigations Chris Wray ran, do you think, during the 8 years or so that he was in the chair?
0.
Okay, so they don't do criminal investigations as a director. What about the deputy? You think he ran any criminal investigations from his desk?
Unless they're Andy McCabe, no.
So, which was probably illegal stuff, like when
yes.
Yeah, the ones that get Office of Inspector General reports. Do you think Dan Bongino or Kash Patel are running any investigations on the criminal level to arrest FBI personnel? Is there a possibility of that?
No, and I wouldn't want them to do that.
Okay. That's not what they do. By the way, that Richmond field office thing, of course, the question was, did he perjure himself? Because, of course, the House was able to find out, and there's a letter that's highlighted on that screen, that there were, in fact, 3 different other field offices that were involved in at least the core information that developed the seed crystal for putting that thing forward. Chris Wray was famous for letting us know that the right thing in the right way at the right time for the right reason with the right people with the right type of shoe wear and with the right safety protocols in place. This was him visiting the Holocaust. No, this is him at Ground Zero for 9/11. Interestingly enough, I feel like 9/11 was the turning point for the Bureau. Do you share that with me as far as most recently and then Obama after that?
Yeah, I think that those are 2 pretty big inflection points when they made some significant changes to the way that they operated and also the personnel they were bringing in.
Okay, so here he is giving an inspirational speech. I miss these speeches at this point. I'll give you the alternative. We're tongue-in-cheek, people. Hang in there.
As you embark on your FBI careers, I hope that the memory of this visit will help you stay focused on the people you do the work for. Remember who's counting on you, who's counting on all of us. We work to bring justice to the victims of terrorism and crime and to their families.
Okay, so that is really nice. Do you remember what happened? Did they ever figure out who the pipe bomber was?
No, I don't think they have. I think that they keep just upping their award amount and then saying, well, just trust us, bro. We'll turn it over at any given point here. And then, sorry, the cell phone data got corrupted. And the cell phone companies were like, no, it wasn't. What are you talking about?
Right. And then he went in front of Congress and mentioned that this was later in in 2021 than we are currently in 2025. In other words, it was more time after January 6th. This is Thomas Massey asking some questions. He's also on some congressional testimony talking to people like Steve D'Antuono, mentioning my name randomly, which is funny. The fact that I'm in the congressional record about all this stuff. Here he is questioning about the pipe bomber. I thought we would get that answer too. They've had like 5 years.
100 days ago is when this happened, and you said you had total confidence we'd apprehend the subject. We've found video that looks like somebody, a passerby, miraculously found this pipe bomb at the DNC and then notified the police. Miraculously, I say, because it was specifically the precise time to cause the maximum distraction from the events going on at the Capitol. Can you show this video that we have, please? I'd like to know if the director has seen this. This is somebody with a mask on, wearing a hat. They're walking in front of the DNC, which is out of the view on the right-hand side. You'll see him come into view. He goes to one police car. He goes to another police car. He's holding a backpack. He's got a mask on. He's talking to the police.
So we know who that guy is, right?
Not yet, apparently. Look, let's just throw out any sort of like conspiratorial, nefarious things here. What do we know about this individual? They're actually it's the same person that planted both pipe bombs.
Supposedly.
They're the only person who engaged in using a weapon of mass destruction, theoretically, that day on January 6th, independent of what happened at the Capitol. It's not the same investigation. We like to conflate that, but it's independent. They did the planting of these devices at an obscure time when it would be easier to track them. Meanwhile, the government was able to use the same technology to track down grandmas who were standing in thralls of hundreds of thousands of people. And yet, this individual over the last 4 years has not carried out another attack? That seems very odd.
Yeah, that does seem odd. You know what also is odd is that the same tactic that Jane's Revenge was able to use over at the Civil Rights Division, where they declined all the prosecutions. Do you remember the excuse? It happened at night. So I guess this is I'm not trying to advise people of this, but I am telling you that operationally speaking, if you commit a crime at night, the FBI is basically incapacitated, even if it involves things like weapons of mass destruction in the national capital region. That's a pretty telling situation. That tells me that we might need an overhaul. Would you be proud of that at all?
Yeah, I think an overhaul is probably necessary at this point. I mean, it's similar to being like, well, I committed a complex financial crime, but only pocketed $990,000. So it just doesn't meet the threshold for this esteemed and austere law enforcement entity.
Yeah, go for $250,000, $750,000, keep under the 1 million in certain areas, keep under 5 million in other areas like New York City, or if you're in DC, you can get away with that. Matt Gaetz, you talked to him earlier this week. Was that yesterday?
Last night.
Here's what happens when Matt Gaetz, who does a pretty good job of going hard at Chris Wray, he kind of leans into this thing, this defensive tactic. I'm bringing it up for a very specific reason. Whenever you're questioned about what your agency is doing, the best thing to do is to mention that people love you guys, and that's why they want to work there. Okay, yes. Here's Matt Gaetz engaging with Chris Wray.
People trusted the FBI more when J. Edgar Hoover was running the place than when you are. And the reason is because you don't give straight answers. You give answers that later a court deems aren't true, and then at the end of the day, you won't criticize an obvious shakedown when it's directly in front of us, and it appears as though you're whitewashing the conduct of corrupt people.
Respectfully, Congressman, in your home state of Florida, the number of people applying to come work for us and devote their lives working for us is up over 100%.
We're deeply proud of them, and they deserve better than you.
Oh, well, that's a good comeback. But listen, how do you feel about recruiting numbers as a health metric for a federal agency, Steve Friend?
I think that the appropriate analogy, maybe for you, because you did run a restaurant as Wolverine. I mean, it was like X-Men's Burgers and Brewery or something like that. But let's say that you ran a restaurant and all your customers kept coming in and said, I keep getting food poisoning at your restaurant. I am not going to recommend it. I'm not going to come here anymore. And you said, well, I have a record number of people applying to be waiters here, so I'm just not going to change the way we do things.
And it might be because I pay It's because I pay $25 an hour for a job that other people do for $12 an hour.
In a down economy, the opportunity to make $135,000 a year to do relatively nothing. You're not even expected to arrest bad guys or carry a gun, mind you. And you get 50 paid days off a year, time to work out, and you can leave whenever you want on a Friday, and you're surprised when people take you up on that?
No BS. I worked with cops in New Mexico who were making $40,000, $45,000 a year, doing far more dangerous things on a regular basis. So the ongoing question used to be, hey, how come you guys make so much more money? And because we made $120,000 a year as a base 13-1 in the rest of the United States. I'll just tell you transparently, you guys can look this stuff up. This is not like mysterious. What an FBI agent makes as a GS-13 is between $130,000 and $175,000 a year, not including benefits, not including, the matching part of your TSP, which is like a 401k type thing. So all of that is to say you get paid really well. And my answer to them was, look, you get a lot of job satisfaction about what you get to do. I have to get paid to do a lot of boring things. That's why my job pays more. I think they have to pay more.
I think also because that makes you less inclined to take a bribe.
That was the theory. Turns out that didn't work for Charles McGonigal.
Not McGonigal.
It turns out it doesn't actually work for a number of people.
Integrity is only a problem if you got it.
Facts, as noted earlier this week. Here's Chris Wray using the same tactic on Eli Crane, talking about recruiting. When in doubt, go to the recruiting well about how well we're doing. Here it is. I'm setting up something here. Can you guys feel it? This is actually really important.
Sir, do you find it interesting how many whistleblowers there are right now from your organization coming forward and testifying to Congress about the conduct of the FBI and how they no longer even want to work for the FBI? They're willing to risk everything, including their livelihood, to come and talk to Congress about what they perceive to be a change in the culture at the FBI.
Certainly, I respect the role of whistleblowers in our system. It's an important part of the way our system of government works. When it comes to the culture of the FBI, I'm very proud of our 38,000 people. I think you will be relieved to know that the number of people applying to be special agents from the state of Arizona has gone up over 135% over the last 5 years. And
Steve, I'd like to talk to you about whistleblowers. Does that bother you at all? Can you tell me about your recruiting numbers instead?
Yeah, I mean, that's a perfect just deflection that he's using there, because he always used that. I'm curious, was that before or after they asked Christopher Wray if he could absorb more than 2 years of not getting paid a salary like Garrett O'Boyle, and then he actually laughed at that?
He did actually laugh. Mm-hmm. I'm only bringing this up because yesterday at 3:11 p.m. my time on May 1st, FBI Director Kash Patel said the FBI is recruiting news. I'm thrilled to report the FBI has recently hit our goal of 2,500 new FBI agents. That's not what it says. Intelligence analyst applications in a single week, half of the time that it expected. Apparently, they are looking to restaff the intel cadre, which absolutely blows my mind. This administration confronts new threats, and numbers like this are exactly why we need to meet the moment, Steve Friend. They are the great men and women all over the country who want to be part of what we're building at the FBI to protect and serve the American people. We're just getting started. Thank you to our teams working hard to support the mission. Those HR deep state a-holes that got rid of Steve Friend, Garrett O'Boyle, that haven't brought him back and are in fact recruiting more of themselves. Are we winning or what, buddy?
We're still we're remaining the intelligence agency with a gun, which I thought was like the reason that we needed to take out the Hoover building and make it a museum to the deep state.
I thought so too. Anyway, here's Chris Wray also touting record recruiting. It's nonstop. It turns out if you can't do anything, you might as well talk about who wants to come work for you.
You know that since October, our special agent recruiting, we have more special agent applicants since October than we had all of the prior year, which shows a significant uptick in the enthusiasm that people have about wanting to dedicate their careers and put their lives on the line working for the FBI. But it's not just agents. You know, we're recruiting computer scientists, data analysts, engineers, the youth of America. We got a thriving economy out there, and we have the highest number of intern applicants, you know, out of college that we've ever had. And our selection rate, both for special agents and for interns, is between 5% and 6%, which for those keeping score is more selective than most Ivy League schools.
Holy moly, it's more selective than the Ivy Leagues. You know where he went to school? He went to Yale.
He went to Yale, yeah. So, and it's reminiscent of what we were told. I'm sure you had a similar experience at Quantico. You were basically
there were
exactly
there were 100,000 people that wanted to sit in your chair.
98 billion people who applied for your exact position.
All of the people in the history of the world wanted to do your job.
One, you should feel really lucky and do whatever we tell you to do. And two, you're just so darn elite. Let's pump you up with hubris.
We are the pristine, premier, most important law enforcement, not doing very many arrests a year on average. How many average arrests does an FBI agent do per year based on, is it 2?
Oh, yeah. I mean, and they're relying heavily. I mean, like I rely on you for children to uptick my average. They rely heavily on the Indian country guys. Me and one other agent in the Omaha field office accounted for 25 to 30% of the entire division's arrests for a calendar year, for a fiscal year.
Out of 100 agents.
Yes.
Okay. When I was sitting in the counterintelligence division, I started the story earlier and I forgot to finish it. You have to have, I think, 2 arrests in order to check off the logbook to become a fully fledged, like, vested agent.
That's a lift for a counterintelligence agent.
It is. So what they did is they let some people go and sit at a police station where someone self-surrendered and watch on the security cam footage when a local TFO hooked up a bad guy who turned himself in. And by watching the CCTV camera of someone else putting cuffs on someone, they were able to count as being part of the arrest team. I shit you not, that is a real thing.
They opened up a 343 agency assist case in order to do it. They juked the stats and they claimed an arrest.
Claimed an arrest. That's an FBI arrest claimed in the probationary thing. I do like hearing Chris Wray compare the FBI to an elite Ivy League school. Donald Trump does the opposite of it. I feel like people realize that that's what America wants, is less of this like elitism. Here's a great little piece from a speech he did, kind of a reminder of who was elected, and maybe hopefully a reminder to the people that are running our institutions that we're not looking for elite, we're looking for get it done. Here he is talking at, I think this is at Alabama.
Now exactly 250 years after the first Patriots stood and fought at Lexington and Concord, we're in the midst of another kind of revolution, a revolution of winning and a revolution of common sense. Common sense. Everywhere you look, broken systems, corrupt institutions, and tired dogmas are being swept away by the tide of history. Ancient wisdom is being rediscovered, and the best and strongest traits of America are coming back for all to see, bigger, better, and greater than ever. Coming back, and they're coming back fast. The spirit of our age is one of boldness, vigor, ambition, and adventure, and it's exciting to be you and young. Oh, I'd pay you a lot of money to have your age. You have a great future. The people have rejected the voices of a failed establishment. You saw that in the election. We've turned the page on endless wars, crippling debt, open borders, ruinous inflation, and a lack of respect for our country and for its leaders. But we're turning that all around, and we're turning it around very fast. We will very quickly make America great again.
I don't have the piece of the clip. I must have grabbed the wrong one. He goes out there and he says the future of America is not going to be written in the Harvard Crimson. It's going to be written in the crimson colors of Alabama, Roll Tide.
The Crimson Tide, yeah. So I think, look, and I know people talked about how Tim A. Walz was brought in to be like the code talker for the Democrats with his jazz hands.
He's got jazz hands.
Like, I immediately thought of the wind talkers, and it's like, that's perfect. They view the like white man who just like likes to go to work and take care of his family and occasionally catch a football game. That's a primitive species. We need to get somebody to speak the Navajo language.
Can you backwards compatible the conversation for these people? That is exactly why Mike Rowe continues to be one of my favorites. The things he talks about, trades. I just saw a story. Catholic Vote has one in the loop that people should go and read about an automated trucking company that's going to put a lot of people out of work, and it's a real serious problem. People have been talking about it for a couple of years. It's now here. So what do you do? Anyway, maybe you could go work for the FBI. Doesn't this look cool? This is what real recruiting looks like, Steve. Maybe this is why the numbers are up.
Yeah! Helicopters! Flare the Black Hawk! Land it on a roof or you can fast rope. Nobody does that for any operations. Wear camo vests and blow up doors. In training only, not allowed in the real mission.
They don't have dogs either.
They do. I mean, HRT does.
Can you apply? That's why we're getting it done.
Again, this makes me so grossed out because this is the Chris Wray story. We're recruiting 2,500 new Intel analysts. You know what the people are that are blowing up doors? They're not Intel analysts. Those people,
for sure.
They're writing Intel products on Catholics and going after FACE Act violators, and they're going after people for praying outside of an abortion clinic. So anyway, apparently that's what we voted for.
It's disappointing, man. That's. I mean, look, I think they're trying to go in and do the Pete Hegseth. It just is not transferable, personality-wise, and then also culture-wise. The FBI isn't law enforcement, really. It's not cops. It's definitely not military, even if they wear the $800 cry uniforms when they're on SWAT or HRT hits. And it's not led to any, I mean, you're attracting 2,500 people to go write Intel products. Like, acknowledge what you are, and then just own that, and then reform that. And there's certain sorts of policy changes that we can make right away. And there's definitely some personnel choices that we can make right away. And if you have to err on the side of collateral damage and fire the good people by accident or remove them, you can just bring them back. It's not permanent, not set in stone.
No, but you're being unrealistic, so I'm going to give you the new Bongino rule, and then I want to know a thumbs up, thumbs down from Steve Friend whether cutesy time continues.
I'm saying we're going to apply a new Bongino rule to this because you're talking about turning probably the most massive aircraft carrier in the world, which takes a long, long time. New Bongino rule is to wait 6 to 8 months before you see results. I'm thinking you're going to see him sooner, but you have to give him time.
No, I don't. I'd like to see a debate between Jim Verde, who's never worked for the FBI, and maybe like one of our wives who have also never worked for the FBI, and see which one has somebody that knows more about the FBI based on just proximity to it. His buddy worked there for a month and has not accomplished anything. Our wives have seen years and years of living in the background. I just think it would be an interesting debate. It'd just be fun to see. People who didn't work for the FBI talking about the FBI probably should just sit it out and find out what the real answers are. Not by proxy or do social media coverage, but that's what we're seeing right now.
6 to 8 months. Does he mean
cutesy time?
6?
Yes or no? Hold on. Cutesy time?
Well, 6 to 8 months. That probably means 628 months, which is
that's so many months. 628 months. Yeah, we're all going to be dead by then. They will have taken over the country.
Speed of government, man. Speed of government.
Speed of government. Yeah, I don't have a ton of faith. So cutesy time continues. Is that the fair?
It's 628 twice a day. So cutesy time twice a day.
Very good. Steve, tell people what's coming up for your American Radicals. I'll give you the screen, and then we'll do a palate cleanse as always.
All right. American Radicals podcast. Join us on Rumble tomorrow, 10:30 Eastern Time. Saturday grab bag at GOB Actual. Garrett Boyle, my co-host, returned on Thursday. He's back for Saturday. We're going to be talking about some stuff like about how cops are illegal aliens and they're getting arrested for rape, and other cops are helping the illegals evade authorities. So lots of problems. We're going to break it down. Join us 10:30 on rumble.com/amradpod, 10:30 Eastern Time. Have a great weekend, guys.
Thanks, buddy. I appreciate you. I'm going to go ahead and flip over here. You have a good weekend as well, folks. You can support our program by following us over on rumble.com/Kyle Seraphin. If you want to boost the numbers over on YouTube, we had a little discussion about that yesterday. You can find us at youtube.com/@Kyle Seraphin. Close to record numbers in the live chat over there as well today. So we really appreciate you guys checking in on that. Very cool. And you can see us on Locals. You'll get the Sunday sit down one day early over on Locals. If you want to go to kyleseraphin.com, you'll be able to go and find, we did it behind the scenes on the numbers on how podcasts work. If you guys are curious, kind of a free option for people to see. And then of course you can see, if you're a subscriber, the show early. kyleseraphinshow.com for free access to Spotify. Doesn't cost you anything. I used to think Spotify was subscription only because of Joe Rogan, but that's not the case. And again, it's a one-man show over here. It's just one guy punching buttons, talking into a microphone, and putting together what I think is a fairly interesting product for you. So I hope you guys enjoy that. Stick around for this one. Some of us need to go ahead and reduce our bodies. I'm probably in the same category. If you guys are interested in dieting, maybe you need an inspirational song. So we're going to start that as we go into the weekend. That guy's got a great voice. You don't expect a comedian to come out there and actually have some pipes. So anyway, I'll punch that over onto our Locals channel too, and we'll find out his name's tagged on there. It's JW Comedy on TikTok. So at JW Comedy, we'll look him up. I don't even know his full name, but I thought that was great. Anyway, I hope you guys have a fantastic weekend. God bless all of you. Look forward to seeing you either for the Sunday sit down, or we'll see you again on Monday at 0930 Eastern time, live here on all the different channels, or 8:30 Central in Texas, America. Have a fantastic weekend, y'all.
Thanks for listening to The Kyle Seraphin Show, streamed live weekdays on rumble.com/Kyle Seraphin. Follow Kyle on Twitter, Truth Social, and Instagram at Kyle Seraphin.